Hello, my friends. Scotty J Here, back again with another episode of 9 Hours, 9 Persons, and 9 Doors. Now, last time, we went through door number 2, as it was the only other option we hadn't taken yet, and unfortunately, it led to us finding Ace, Clover, and Santa dead, finding June dead, and then soon finding ourselves also dead. So that did not work. So we are now going to try the other routes. So the way to get good endings in 999 is you have to do the rooms in certain order. Doing rooms in certain order will trigger certain conversations, which will help you avoid a bad end. So for this run, I'm going to just try to focus in on the new conversations, but we will be skipping around a bit. So I'll try to give a little context of where we are when I start up. But yeah, so I'll be popping in and out. Let's get started, shall we? All right, see you in a sec. All right, and we are back. So, to start this route, we did door number 5 with Snake and 7. No new conversations there because it's just a starting door, so we'll always have the same dialogue when you do door 5. However, now we're in door 8 with Lotus and Clover. So we will continue on from here, shall we? Oh, we just found the power cable and have turned the computer on. Try to situate in your back where we're at. All right, let's go. Junpei pushed the button on the front of the monitor. With a soft hum, it turned on. Streams of letters that made no sense to Junpei began to scroll across the screen. He had hoped it would turn on, but he hadn't expected this. Huh? It's actually working? So it would seem. Huh, isn't that kind of weird? What? Well, I mean, it's not connected to the main computer, right? There's just this keyboard and monitor. The only cable connecting this thing is the power cable we just plugged in. So why is it working? Maybe it's a wireless display. Clearly, this was a reasonable explanation to Lotus. A wireless display? Yeah, it connects your computer wirelessly. Hence the name. Have you been living in a cave, Junpei? He most certainly had not, but... Is that normal? Yes, at least where I worked. Oh? As they spoke, the lines of letters suddenly stopped and disappeared. The only thing left on the screen was the word pass, followed by a colon. Looks like we need to enter a password. Oh, again? Okay, there must be a hint around here somewhere. Could you go take a look? Oh, yeah, sure, I'm on it. Oh, what are you going to do? I'll see if I can do something about this on my own. On your own? Yep, on my own. Lotus pulled over the nearest chair and dropped herself down onto it, in front of the keyboard. For a second, she stared at the screen. She kneaded her hands, knuckles popping, and twisted her back left, then right. All right, let's kick some ass. Lotus smiled to herself and rubbed her hands together in anticipation. Then, before Junpei had time to blink, she was typing at incredible speed, the click-clack of the keys running together like machine gun fire. What? Junpei was, for once, at a loss for words. Didn't expect that, did you? Of course I didn't. What kind of job do you have? What are you? I'm unemployed at the moment. I used to work for a cybersecurity firm, but I, quit. Why? Lotus blinked. Huh? Oh, it was just something. She stopped typing for a moment, and her face fell. This was not an avenue of questioning to be pursued, Junpei realized, and quickly shut his mouth. Lotus's fingers began to move again. In a few seconds, she was back up to speed. As she typed, more letters and symbols that meant nothing to Junpei began to pour across the screen. So what are you doing now? I'm going to try and brute force it. Brute what? A brute force attack is, well, the short version is that I just attack the thing head on. The long version. Without looking up or slowing down, she began to explain. A brute force attack is one of the simplest ways to break a cipher, she told him. It checks every possible combination until it finds the right one. For a complex cipher, it can take a very long time. The thought of doing something like that made Junpei feel tired, but Lotus explained that she was just writing a program that would run just such an attack on its own. It's not the most elegant solution, certainly, but given the circumstances, there isn't much else I can do. Even as she talked, her fingers never slowed or missed a key. Junpei couldn't help but feel a little odd. Oh, but back to what we were talking about earlier. What were we talking about? The wireless display. It's kind of strange if you think about it, isn't it? Huh? How do I put this? Well, let's say you write a program that calculates an addition problem for you. All right? So you enter 1 plus 1. The screen will show you 2. See, isn't that strange? No, not really. Oh, come on now. Of course a caveman like you would think it's strange. You just said so a minute ago. Huh? You're just not getting it, are you? Who calculated 1 plus 1? The main computer, right? You said it's connected to the monitor wirelessly. Yes, but someone who grew up in a cave wouldn't know that, right? They probably think that this thing here, the monitor, is doing the calculating. And once they decided that, they'll start examining this monitor. They might poke the screen or something. Ah, I see. The color changes when I press it here. Then they might investigate the hardware on the inside. Ah, I see. So this wire supplies power. Eventually, they might even cut the wires. Ah, yes, just as I expected. When this wire is cut, no results appear. Therefore, it must be this device which does the calculations. But the truth is that, just like you said, the computer is doing the calculating. But these cave people wouldn't know that, because they have no idea that the monitor and the computer are connected. Lotus continued to type. Junpei scratched his head. So, what are you trying to say? Oh, nothing, really. It's just, I thought maybe. What if the relationship between human beings and our brains is like that? Huh? Well, let's say you stick a bunch of electrodes into parts of the brain. A scientist examining the signals they send might say, oh, interesting, so stimulating this part of the brain causes this person to see colors. This must mean this neuron cluster controls that function. Okay, well let's see what happens when I cut out this part. Ah, yes, just as I thought. Cutting off this part causes that function to cease. Therefore, human thought processes must occur in the human brain. You get it? It's just like this monitor. Maybe the brain is just an output device, like this monitor. Maybe our thought process actually occurs somewhere else, in a main body. We just don't know it. We never even think about it. Just like those cave people wouldn't know about wireless communications. We can't imagine that there's some unknown medium that transfers information into our brains, where we experience that information as thoughts. Junpei didn't say anything. Not so much because he had no retort. No, her argument just seemed, well, silly. And he was just a little surprised to be hearing it from someone like her. The brain is just an output device? Human thought actually occurs somewhere else? Did Lotus really think that? He wondered. Just a little creepy, Junpei thought. It sounded altogether too much like a bizarre cultist religion. Maybe that's the cause of Seven's amnesia. Oblivious to Junpei's increasing discomfort, Lotus continued. If memory is actually stored somewhere else, in some sort of main body somewhere, maybe he hasn't forgotten anything at all. It's just having a difficult time accessing his memories because the monitor, his brain, has been damaged. I suppose that would explain Aspia and Blindside too. Perhaps they can speak or see. The motor function just isn't functioning properly. Well, I guess people with prosopagnosia could be suffering the same thing. Whoa, wait a minute. Proso what? He knew what Aspia from watching medical dramas on TV, and Blindside was easy enough to guess, but he'd never heard of prosopagnosia before. Oh, what, you've never heard of prosopagnosia? Lotus spun around in her chair to look at him. Junpei just shrugged and shook his head. Nope. What is it? Well, to put it simply, it means a condition where the mind can't distinguish between human faces. In other words, my face would look the same as Clover's or even yours. So they can't remember faces, which is how most people recognize each other. That means that people with prosopagnosia would have trouble recognizing even people they're close to. Usually, they can make do by associating people with other things. Their voices, their clothes, their hair. Does that mean other people's faces just look blank? No, I don't think so. You've seen monkeys, like in the zoo, right? To you and me, all monkeys' faces look the same, even though they've obviously got faces. It's almost impossible for a human to distinguish between them. The zoo staff that works with them would learn to identify different monkeys, eventually, but you or I couldn't, unless one had a scar or something to set it apart. That's how people would be to someone with prosopagnosia. Prosopagnosia, huh? Didn't even know that kind of thing existed. Junpei did his best to act as though the entire lecture hadn't gone entirely over his head. And so, what were we talking about? The idea that your brain is just an output device, like a monitor. Are you serious about that stuff? No, not really. I was just kidding around for half of it. What about the other half? Well, I guess it was just adulting? Ugh. Not funny. Lotus's smile had something rather masochistic to it. It's nothing more than a story I made up out of boredom. Don't take it seriously. It was just the first thing that came to mind, and so I just talked about it to kill time. But it looks like I don't need to talk anymore. Why? I don't have to kill time any longer. As she spoke, Lotus raised her right hand arm up high and brought it down on the Enter key. The program took only seconds to analyze the system. Chunks of text flickered on and off in quick succession, and then a line of numbers appeared, blinked, and disappeared. The screen cleared, and all that was left was the word accepted. Piece of cake. Lotus would clearly have patted herself on the back if it would not have made her look entirely ridiculous. After a few seconds, the accepted disappeared and went to be replaced with 9 squares arranged in a 3x3 square. What the hell is that? No idea. It looks like a puzzle. Suddenly, Lotus stood up. Huh? Aren't you going to, I don't know, do more computer stuff? I can't do any more. It won't let me do any more programming. See the keyboard? Nothing. So there's nothing more I can do. Oh, well, I guess I'll leave this to you then, Junpei. What? Oh, let me take a break, all right? I did my part. He wasn't sure what to say to that. She certainly had done her part. In fact, without Lotus, they probably would have run completely aground. I shouldn't rely on other people so much, Junpei thought to himself. From here on out, he told himself, he would rely on no one else. Junpei crossed his arms and stared at the puzzle shown on the screen. All right, well, this one wasn't too bad if I recall, so haha, ho-ho, hee-hee, ta-ha. There we go. All right, I solved it. Did you hear a noise just now? Yeah, I did. It sounded like something unlocking. Where did it come from? The lockers. Look, Junpei. The lights on the lockers are green. Oh, then they must have unlocked with the computer puzzle. Woohoo! And we got keys. There's more than one key in here. This one is small. It looks like it goes to some machine. And this one has the Earth symbol on it. I think the Earth symbol matches a keyhole in a door on A deck. Well, if that's the case, we probably don't need the Earth key right now. Alright then, Earth key. I'll just tuck you away deep in my pocket. Now as for the other key. Woohoo! Activation key. It was just at that moment that he heard a voice behind him. It was Clover. Hey, Junpei, do you have a minute? He put the puzzle aside for the moment and walked over to Clover. Oh, what's up? I wanted to ask you something. Junpei, you went into door 5 with my brother, right? Did you hear him say anything, like anything weird? Why is she asking me this? Junpei wondered. The more he thought about it, however, the more it made sense. Snake had been gone for a long time. Clover was quite attached to her brother. Of course, she would be worried about him. He thought back to when they'd gone through door 5, hoping he might remember something, even a small something, that would help her. However... Sorry, Clover. I can't really think of anything. I mean, he did mention that his hearing exceeds that of a regular person, or something like that, but that's about it. Okay. Clover's words were barely audible. She nodded vaguely to Junpei and turned to walk away. Oh, hey, wait a minute. Oh, look, I don't know if I should ask you things, but if you don't mind, I was hoping you could tell me if, is Snake, was he born? Oh, you're talking about his eyes? Yeah. No, he wasn't born blind. When he was a kid, he got in an accident. A really bad car accident. He couldn't see after that. And his arm. His arm? Yeah. My brother's left arm is... Well, it's not like a normal person's arm. It's fake. It's not a real arm. The accident hurt him really bad. To save him, they had to cut off his arm. Oh. Is that all you wanted to ask me? Talking about her brother had clearly taken a great deal out of Clover. Junpei nodded. Look, I'm sorry for making you talk about all that painful stuff. Clover only shook her head and walked down the stairs. All right. Some new info then for us. Learned about prosopagnosia, and that snake apparently has a fake left arm and was not always blind. Interesting stuff. Let's push on ahead, shall we? Be right back. All right, hello my friends. We are back. So we just finished up with the laboratory. Yeah, the laboratory. And are now entered the steam room. We just dropped the box on down, and now Santa's got a little something to say. If you think about it, it's a lot weirder that we aren't freaking out just like her, you know? So you're saying we're abnormal? Yeah. We're just running around this room, solving all these puzzles like it's just business as usual. How the hell could you call that normal? We're just guinea pigs. Santa snorted in disgust. A guinea pig? You mean like a lab rat? You mean we're being used for some sort of experiment? Is that what you're saying? I don't know. But it does seem like a possibility, you know? With that, he turned and walked away from the winch. Junpei and Ace followed him. Speaking of experiments... Santa suddenly stopped. There was this experiment some scientists did with rats. First, they took a squarish C-shaped tank and filled it with enough water that the rats could drown. The tank had 2 exits, A and B. A is pitch black, so dark even a rat can't see anything. B, however, is electrified, which means the rat can't leave through it. So, what would a rat do if it was put in this situation? Which exit would the rat choose? There was a moment of silence after Santa posed the question, and then Ace responded. B, of course. The rat has no way of knowing that exit B is electrified. Exactly. The rat goes to exit B. Of course, like I said, it's electrified, which means the rat can't get out that way. So after a lot of trial and error, the rat finally finds exit A. I can't say that's very interesting or relevant. It's simply a story of a laboratory experiment. You're right, it's not very interesting. Yet. These scientists repeated the experiment over and over, using hundreds of different rats over several generations. This produced some surprising results. With each generation of rats, they took less time to find the correct exit. Eventually, a rat was put in the tank who instantly chose exit A without even attempting to go to exit B. But even that wasn't the most impressive thing. The same experiment was conducted in another laboratory, far away from the original one, with the same results. No, actually, on second thought, the results weren't really the same. The rats in the second experiment began the trials with significantly faster times than the first rats of the initial experiment. These rats were not related to the rats used in the first experiment, and had never even come in contact with them, and yet, they all easily found their way to exit A, all as though they already knew. What did it mean? Are you suggesting something like telepathy? They were passing information to one another through some undetectable medium? Ace looked skeptical. Santa snorted at him. How the hell would I know? I'm not any kind of scientist. I don't know what made him do that. But I do know the story's true, and if you've got another explanation, I'd love to hear it. Oh, come on, let's go. There's a lot of things we haven't checked out yet, and we gotta get the hell out of here before June passes out. Without waiting for a response, he turned around and started walking. Junpei, however, wasn't quite ready to leave the topic alone. Hey, wait. There's something I want to ask you. Santa stopped and looked around. Why did they use the tank for the experiment? Huh? I mean, it seems like you could conduct the same experiment without the water. They could have just used a dry box, you know? If they needed to motivate the rats to escape, they could have, I don't know, put some bait at the end of exit B or something? I mean, do they really need to make it so the rats can drown? Santa gave a grim bark of a laugh. Ha! Well, you know the word emergency comes from the same root word as emerge. You ever think about that? Well, an emergency is something urgent, often something dangerous. And to emerge means to sort of come out or to appear or rise out of something else. So what's going to emerge in an emergency? Inspiration. Inspiration? Yeah. Think about it. When the chips are down, either you crack or your mind focuses and pulls up what you need. So in an emergency, your real potential emerges? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. I mean, that's why the rats had to drown. They had to be in danger. There had to be an emergency for inspiration to emerge. Junpei suddenly felt cold. The back of his head was aching, and his stomach felt strange. All right. So, rats, eh? With that, I think we will pause and pop on ahead. See you guys in a second. All right, and we are back. So, we finished the room, and now we have a little chat with Santa. Let's go. As they walk back towards the exit, Junpei noticed Santa sitting on the stairs. He was, however, holding something in his right hand and staring at it with a strange expression. Junpei and June slowed down and finally stopped in front of him. "What are you looking at?" Santa answered without looking up, his voice quiet. "It's a photo. It's my sister." "Sister? Santa, you've got a sister?" Santa simply nodded. "Yeah. Kid was cute as a button." June cocked her head, confused. "She was only about an inch tall then?" Santa glared at her. Sorry. I guess an inch is a little large for a button. Probably more like a half inch." Santa didn't smile or laugh. He simply turned back to his picture and spoke. "I was her Santa Claus." This sudden revelation took Junpei by surprise. He had no idea what Santa meant. He glanced at June, who shook her head, and she didn't know either. "We didn't have parents. They bought it in an accident when we were still kids. So I had to be like her dad, and that meant I had to buy her Christmas presents every year. On Christmas Eve, I'd leave the present next to her on her pillow. The next morning, she'd run into my room with a big smile. Look, Santa left me a present. Santa got me the doll I really wanted. I'm so glad he got the letter I wrote." "I was the one who told her to write those letters. I'd say, write down something you want and mail it to Santa. The address I gave her was somewhere in Northern Europe that didn't exist. Anyway, she'd write the letter and stamp it and send it out. And then a few days later, it'd show up back at our mailbox, marked, address unknown. I'd open the letter before she figured out they'd send it back. Once I had the letter, I'd go around to a couple of stores with the money I'd saved up over the year and buy her the stuff she'd asked for. Took a lot of saving, but I managed to buy her presents every year." Junpei was silent. He could think of nothing to say. June looked down, a little uncomfortable. The wall next to him suddenly groaned. Either you hadn't heard the sound or didn't care. Santa kept talking. "But one year her letter was different. She didn't write a list of toys she wanted or anything like that. Instead it said, 'I don't want any presents this year. Instead, I want you to make my wish come true. My wish is that we'll be happy like this for a really, really long time.' But I couldn't make that wish come true. Some Santa I am." Santa looked sad. Junpei had never seen him look sad before. He wasn't sure he liked it. Junpei decided it was probably best not to ask Santa any more questions. But, What happened?" June glanced up at Santa quickly as she spoke. He answered, but only with an effort. She died. She was killed 9 years ago." There was nothing Junpei could say. His heart felt like a great lump of lead. June bit her lip and looked away. Her face was pale. "All right, let's go." Santa stood up suddenly, his downcast demeanor gone. He shoved the picture back into his pocket and headed back up the stairs, taking them two at a time. Junpei and June looked at one another. There was nothing they could think of to say. "Hey, what are you two doing? Let's get moving. Come on!" Santa's voice echoed across the room from above them. They nodded and followed him quickly up the stairs. Ace was waiting for them at the top. He was leaning against the handrail. He looked very tired. The door had shut, but it wasn't cause for concern. Junpei quickly solved the puzzle a second time, and the door opened once again. In single file, they walked through. After walking for nearly 15 feet, they found themselves in front of a metal door. It opened easily enough, and they passed through it as well. A new room stretched out before them. Is this a warehouse? No, I believe this is the cargo room. This must be where they store all this vessel's freight. There are wooden crates everywhere. Wonder how old they are. Junpei, Ace, and June had stopped unconsciously, pausing to take in their new surroundings. Santa's voice broke through their momentary trance. Well, we probably ought to start with finding the exit, right? Let's get going. Well, all right. On to the cargo room we go. Got one short stop in here, and then we'll be on our way. All right. There's a bunch of bags here. I wonder what's in them. Hey, it's the headshot of the ninth man. Horrifying. What's that? It's a card. It's a headshot on it. A headshot? Yeah. I'm not really sure what purpose this could possibly serve. Card with a headshot. Oh, wait, there's the box. Let's pop over here. Hey. Ace in a box. Hi, Ace. We got Clover and Snake. All their cards were together. That's cute. We got 7 on the floor. Hey. Junpei on June. Sneaking into a little box all by themselves. And I think... it's locked. We need the key. All the boxes have numbers on them. Do they? Oh. Ace bent down and picked up something that had been sitting next to the box. Junpei, take a look at this. Cards. There's the Lotus card. Excellent. Sweet. Let's get a look at everyone for fun. I don't think we did this last time. Ace, Snake, Santa, Clover, Junpei, June, 7, Lotus, and the ninth man. Sweet. Well, now we can go away with these. They'd finally collected all 9 picture cards. All that remained was to insert the cards into the slots in front of each box. Junpei stared at the cards in his hand. Ace peered over his shoulder at them. You know which card goes to which box, yes? Junpei gave him a look. Yeah, of course I do. It's really obvious. You just match up our numbers to the numbers in the boxes. So, for instance, the card with the picture of Ace goes into box 1. The card with the picture of Snake goes into box 2, and so on. Ah, I see. Junpei thought he might have imagined it, but he could have sworn Ace stiffened. Just then, Junpei heard a noise. He spun around just in time to see June collapse in front of the fence. June, are you okay? She did not respond. Junpei spun back to face Ace. I'm sorry, I gotta go check on her. You do the box thing, all right? Just put the cards in the boxes. I'm counting on you. He shoved the cards into Ace's hand and ran off towards June. Are you all right? What happened? Junpei called out to her as he ran. As he arrived, June was climbing to her feet with Santa's help. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm fine. I just tripped. Oh, don't give me that. Now's not the time. But it's true. I tripped over a box. Junpei put his palm on her forehead. Her temperature was much the same as it was the last time he'd checked. She wasn't hot like she'd been before, but she was still warm. Her fever wasn't completely gone. I saw her fall. I think she really just tripped over something, you know? Junpei would have felt more willing to agree if June hadn't needed quite so much help standing. Still, to fall down like that, I think she's probably still a little messed up. June was doing her best to busy herself brushing dust off her dress. Her smile looked a little embarrassed, and her face was a bit flushed. But she did look a great deal better than she had. Still. All right, well, let's get out of here as fast as we can so we can get you to a hospital. Oh, I don't need to go to anything that serious. I just need a little medicine, some sleep, and I'll be fine. Medicine. Medicine, huh? Well, we can get in touch with anyone on the outside. I bet Ace can swing that for you. Easy. Ace? Wait, why Ace? Huh? Oh, don't you know? He's the president of a pharmaceutical company. Cradle Pharmaceutical is the name, I think. Their flagship product is an anesthetic drug called Soparil. Soparil. Junpei couldn't shake the feeling that he heard about Soparil before. Santa continued. Yeah, Soparil. Soparil is an anesthetic that is gaseous at room temperature and similar to nitrous oxide. It only takes a few seconds to spread, and even a small amount is very effective. For these reasons, it has found widespread acceptance with police and military forces in numerous countries. It is an effective crowd suppressant and a room clear, and is practical, ethical, and humane. Developed 6 years prior, It was made from the extracts of several different roots. It became popular almost as soon as it was made public, with many governments placing large orders. Demand for Soparil skyrocketed, and as it did, so did the stock of Cradle Pharmaceuticals. Why do you know all this? Santa's information was interesting, but Junpei couldn't help but feel a little suspicious. Santa's reply was blunt but simple. I heard it from the old man himself. From Ace? When? By the number 4 door at the central stairway, when we were searching for the second-class cabin. Remember how Snake, 7, and you went to door 5? I asked him what he did for a living, and he said he ran his own company. After that, we just started talking, and I guess it came up, you know? Are you worried about something? No, nothing. As he spoke, Junpei looked towards Ace. He seemed to be having difficulty with the 9 boxes. Oh, what the hell is he doing? He turned back to June and Santa. June, don't push yourself, all right? Yes. Santa, could you take care of her? Sure. Gave them both a short nod, then turned and headed back towards Ace. Oh, what are you doing? Ace's back was to him as Junpei approached. The older man turned around to look at him. His face was pale and covered in sweat. What happened? Nothing. My vision's gotten rather blurry. I think perhaps because of the fatigue. I can't see very well at the moment. You can't see very well? Oh, these pictures. Ace held the cards out to Junpei, splayed out in the shape of a fan. I don't care to admit it, but I may be developing some, prosopia. Growing old is a difficult thing. He made the best attempt he could at a self-deprecating smile, but his face was flushed and his lips were pale and drawn. At any rate, I'll leave the rest to you. I feel awfully tired, so I don't mind if you don't mind, I'd like to rest for a while. He shoved the cards in Junpei's hand and walked away. Junpei looked at him quizzically. How could simply looking at cards have tired him out? Junpei looked down at the cards in his hand. All the pictures were quite clear, and each person was easily recognizable. Was Aisha's vision truly so bad? But if it wasn't, what made him so uncomfortable? This is when Junpei remembered something he'd heard from Lotus much earlier. Prosopagnosia. Well, put it simply, it means a condition where the mind can't distinguish between human faces. In other words, my face would look the same as Clover's or even yours. So they can't remember faces, which is how most people recognize each other. That means that people with prosopagnosia have trouble recognizing even people they're close to. Maybe. Maybe he's got prosopagnosia? Junpei took another look at Ace. He sat at the base of the stairs, looking quite depressed. It was reasonable, of course, that he'd feel that way. If he really did have prosopagnosia, there's no doubt it was a depressing and painful experience. Still, Junpei didn't feel like patting him on the shoulder and telling him that everything would be all right. Still, Junpei felt perhaps it was best he kept Aisha's condition to himself, at least for the time being. Oh well. Doing his best to clear his mind for the task at hand, he turned back towards the boxes. All right, and I think... Well, actually, let's jump on ahead, shall we? All right, and we are back. Sweet. All right, so we finished up door 5, 8, and now door 6. So we're going to talk on to our buddy 7, who I believe, if I remember correctly, tells us that Clover has disappeared. Oh boy, spooky. Let's get to it. We got a problem. Clover is gone. Junpei and his 3 companions looked at one another. He turned back to 7 and Lotus. What do you mean, gone? Santa, Ace, and June had their own questions to ask. When? Why? You 2 went into door 1 with Clover, didn't you? 7 and Lotus responded as best they could. Yeah, we went through the door together, but Clover barely spoke to us. She just did her own thing the whole time. There were 4 rooms on the other side of door 1. She wouldn't let us into the 4th room. So she just said, I'll take care of this one, and shut the door. She must have blocked it or something on the other side. We waited for a while, but Clover didn't come out. We called her, but she didn't answer. So I kicked down the door and we went into the room. But... It was empty. Clover wasn't there. There was a door on the other wall. And it was open. We figured she opened the door and left by herself. We ran after her, of course, but... Well, obviously we didn't find her. You figured out that much already. Clover's gone. Junpei thought for a moment. When did this happen?
We got here just before you did.
You certainly have excellent timing. So you haven't searched anywhere other than near the staircase?
No, we haven't.
Finally, it was Ace who spoke. His voice had an edge of resolve and concern.
Very well, then. We'd best separate and look for Clover. We haven't much time left. Let's begin.
There were quick nods all around, and the 6 remaining players spread out. Junpei and June ran to the large hospital room together. As quickly as they could, they searched around under beds and in the corners. She's not here. No, she isn't. All right, just in case, we should take a look at the shower room. The shower room? Yeah, it's where her brother is. She might have gone to see him. June bit her lip. She knew, as Junpei did, that there was only one thing to see in the shower room, and it wasn't pleasant. Well, we might as well check, right? Let's go. There was a screwdriver stuck between the door and the frame. Junpei and June slipped through the door, moving down the hallway, and stepped into the shower room. No luck. Yeah, I don't think she's here. June's voice was faint. She placed hands over her mouth. Her face looked a little green. The stench in the room was almost unbearable. It had grown far more unpleasant since their last visit. If Junpei had eaten lunch, he probably would have had difficulty retaining it. He wanted to leave the room as soon as possible, but he had to be sure. And there was the only way to be sure was to check the other side of the divider. Wait here. June offered no resistance and nodded weakly to Junpei as he headed around the divider. He stepped at the corner and turned his head. As he expected, Clover was nowhere to be seen. The only thing on the other side of the divider was the dead body, lying in a reddish-brown puddle of dry and drying blood. There are many ways a man could die, but this... Oh, the skull was shattered, the head was little more than a pulpy mass of brain, bone, and... the left arm was hideously twisted in a horrific alien shape, and the bright white of the Unula shining through the remainder of skin and muscle. Huh? Wait. Bright white? Unula? Bones? The pieces fell into place. Junpei remembered something Clover had told him in the laboratory. My brother's left arm is... Oh, it's not like a normal person's arm. The accident hurt him really bad. To save him, they cut off his arm. Of course. Of course! Why hadn't he realized it earlier? Clover had told Junpei that Snake's left arm was a prosthetic. But the left arm of the corpse behind the divider was clearly a real human arm, or at least it had been once. That meant the corpse. Junpei and June headed back towards the large hospital room. They stepped through the door and out of the shower room. Down the hallway they went, searching for Clover in every corner. They had reached the stairs when 7 appeared, breathless and yelling.
Junpei, June, where were you guys?
He looked pale. His face was drawn. Something terrible had happened. Junpei's breath caught in his throat. Did something happen? 7 drew a shaking hand across his face and gulped down a breath of air.
Clover's dead. I found her in the first-class bathroom.
All the sounds ceased for Junpei. The world was an empty, muffled place. Then he began to hear his own breathing. June's mouth moved, but he heard nothing. She tried once more, and then her energy was gone, and she collapsed against the wall. He could have helped her, but he hadn't, and now she was dead. So he stood there, frozen in place. Clover. Why? Why had this happened? He forced his body to move. Each step felt like another nail pounding into his heart. Finally, he was in front of her. He knelt and placed 3 fingers against her neck. No pulse, no breath. But she was still warm, and her eyes were closed peacefully. It would have been easy to think she was asleep. Easy, that is, were it not for the slowly expanding puddle of blood beneath her. He traced its source to her back, a gash just beneath her shoulder blade. Was the weapon a knife, perhaps? If it was a knife, the killer had taken it when they left. When he closed his eyes, he saw Clover smile. Her innocent smile. Her energy. He would never see her smile again. He could have done something. He could have helped her. His stomach twisted itself into a sickening knot. Junpei lifted limp June from the floor and carried her from the bathroom. Alright, and with that, I think we will stop it there for today. So I think we have a lot to unpack from all that. Snake is potentially not dead, which is very cool. But we have unfortunately too little too late, and we have found Clover's body now instead. So we'll see where this goes next time. This is Scotty J signing off, and I'll see you around. Bye-bye.